this exciting video where you once again join us in the beautiful landscape of Scotland. And for today's adventure, we're joined by Highlander 87, and for today's adventure, we're actually exploring these wild lands of Scotland. There's a swan taking off at the far side of that pond. Look, there it is. Massive. But yeah, we're basically exploring this mad lands between Arbroath and where's the next town up? Montrose. And it's a piece of land that we've never explored before on the channel. And in the last video we found like an old abandoned chapel, an old abandoned mill with a water wheel pit, and many other incredible cool things. So today, this is a continuation of that madness. We're just in the middle of the lands of Angus here at the coast. So yeah, we're just looking for history. It could be World War II history or anything, and we just never know what is around the corner. So let's get into action. Look at this, folks, the view looking away north up Scotland. You can see so far up the vast coast and then over the wild North Sea at this side. The landscapes are just breathtaking, and we are kind of right out here in the middle of it. We never know where we're going on these spontaneous adventures. We go left and right through the countryside, and then we just keep stumbling upon abandoned history. Yes, check it out, folks. It is an old quarry. There's an old deep hole here, which they probably used the stone from here to build the nearby farms and stuff. Maybe even like that chapel and things we visited. Wow, it's amazing to see this. In the distance we could see trees and that in the hollow, and we just thought it's likely to be some sort of old quarry. And sometimes there's cool wee historical wonders hidden in places like this. That was how it was worth coming in for a quick look on our way through this land. What's that there? An old stone, some kind of bit of concrete or whatever. Like an old bit of a toilet. I'm not sure what that's been. But yeah, there's no historical wonders, I wouldn't have said. Sometimes after these places were used for the stone, they were then used for dumping stuff for like the local farmers and things. And I have seen old vehicles and stuff too in Scottish quarries. It's sometimes interesting. Old Ford Sierras and things like that. Wow, folks, we're at the top of the hill and we've just come around this corner. And look, there's an old trench kind of thing dug around here. What has this even been? This is just a mad little bit of hill. Look, it's been fortified. Would that be in the water? Because look, there's metal posts here that would have had barbed wire on them. So think about this. There's a trench literally been dug right around here. And it could be because it's a natural defensive position. For sure. Overlooking any area of Scotland. See the old posts. Yeah, this is interesting how all these little tunnels and little passageways are leading through. It's little like foxholes, as you would call it. Whoa! Look at this. Wow! Oh my goodness! Holy smokes, folks! This here is incredible. This here has been dug around and it's had like a wee foxhole, but it's right on the edge of the cliff, and they would have been overlooking the sea because it's an excellent aspect of the North Sea from here. And then there's been barbed wire and stuff tied right over here. Also around that side there's another trench leading around. I'm not going close to the edge at all at this point. This is incredible. I would have said in World War II this spot here would have been a defensive lookout area. Right now we're at the top of a high cliff, but also there is marks on the ground here as if there's been things. Look, see this here though? My shadow's obviously right in the middle of the frame here, folks, so I'll move around to the far side of this. Highlander's saying there's been rock climbers. Yeah, tying into the rock, bolting in. We're so high on these cliffs here, folks, that it's just mad. Probably 200 foot right here below our feet. And yeah, there's been an outline here, but I don't know if that... I think this looks like a different time period to World War II. An area like this could have been used over the years at any point in time for its just strategic lookout on the land. And I'm wanting to do a full 360 of this prominent piece of land. The views are just so mad around here. This is crazy. Over the years, more bits of this coast will just chip off and fall away, bits of the cliffs. Yeah, and there's even a cliff between us and the mainland. Yeah, this is where the other little tunnel comes out. It's almost like a trench from the water, and it's been dug right around this side of the hill, and you can see it comes round into this area here. And it must have been so they could have a defensive strategic position in the land. Look, let's climb down into it, folks. Yeah, see, it's all been chipped away and dug down in. I don't even know if this has been documented. I've never seen it on YouTube before, little interesting things like this. It's like they've had areas where they could come and sit, and then sit and observe so much miles of the sea, right on the edge of these high extreme cliffs. And you would say that's caused from the edge of the stone moving away, and it creates a little crater, but that's not the case, because this bit here is completely inland. Wow, that's so cool and so interesting, folks. Bits like this, it does make you ask the question of history. And like I say with this channel, you never know what we're going to see, and I just kind of throw the camera on and document things as we go past. Look at this, there's been little areas here. See, this is almost like the entrance into the trench system. The way it's been dug in like 90 degrees. And then you would weave your way around and then you're in. And then the rest of the hill there appears to be covered in barbed wire. So that is super interesting. I've never seen that. It's often cool trying to figure out what you're seeing as well on these adventures, because there's things from so many different time periods in Scotland. You just kind of have to figure out what time period you're seeing. So this is crazy, folks. We're just heading further south along the coast. There's crazy cliffs at the side. We're on this little field edge path. But these areas that we've never been before on the videos, that's often the best places to explore. We get to see little corners of Scotland we've never documented. On the faraway hills I can actually see snow. Oh look, there's a trig point right on the edge of the coast here, so you'll be able to see that on an Ordnance Survey map. Check it out, folks. In front of us here there's another item of history. I'm not even sure what it is yet, but it looks like some sort of concrete square. And it's like there's a road or whatever here where these barriers are. We're now at the opposite side of that area that had been heavily defended, and I was just theorising there could have been the communications mast or whatever on that pinnacle, and the reason the trenches would be along the back is so it was defended from the land, because it would be too difficult from the edge of the sea to come up and do anything to it. So that is an interesting little bit in the land there that I had never seen. Same with this though, you often got little areas that were lookouts in the war, or it could be a water separation area, kin for sewage or whatever. Yeah, they sometimes have a tank like this, or maybe there had been a tank on here. Kin how they often have a tank there and then they put the concrete around it, so that if any fuel spills it goes into the concrete and doesn't poison the ground. Here it's like this area could have been related to what we just saw over there. Has there been some sort of military communications in this area? Because look, the 3 concrete bases. I was thinking this was a water separation tank originally, but it's actually got a solid concrete base. And this is similar to what we saw at RAF Canaber World War II listening station. They actually had a pump mounted on 2 bolts like that. And that's how I started to think maybe this was related to a mast or some sort of device in this area. Yeah, it's super cool, folks, to see different bits of history and to ask the question what each thing was. Was it military related or some sort of communications? Often at this area of Scotland it was perfect. On some of the highest hills here at the edge of the coast, it was perfect for getting their signal the longest distance over the North Sea. And that's why we can see remains of it. We like those trenches and stuff. It's so cool. And we have to be careful around here because it's sheer cliffs. But let's head on over here and have a look. We're just scanning the land as we go, folks, looking for as much history as we can document on these videos. And for sure both those spots so far have been World War II related. I would say Highlander's on his way down here. I'm not sure if he spotted some history or what. Wow, this has been something down here for sure. Our adventures is like this, folks. We just go left and right, and before you know it in Scotland, whoa, you're seeing cool stuff. I was thinking it looked like this had been built originally when I came down. And then we've got these red cliffs. Oh aye, that has been constructed or dug out, eh? Yeah, what? They've dug into the actual rock there, folks, and they've made themselves like a wall. So I'm not sure what time period that would have been. It's like there's been a room there, but also here, they've made it so it's like a wall. Yeah, this is a sheer cliff, folks, and I wouldn't advise anybody to come here if they're watching the videos. Look, it's like a 200-foot drop, like straight down pretty much. Wow, what a scene over this vast coastline of Scotland. You can see why they would have communications up on these hills though when it's overlooking the sea like this. This is just pure paradise, folks. It's like they've had a fire burning on the edge of there. Somebody's burnt plastic. Yeah, I can't even believe how sheer this cliff is.
I want to go and look over that.
It's maybe been quarried out here, that's how it's like this. Kind of, rather than somebody making it into like a room or whatever, it's potentially just been made into blocks and then carted off. Anyway, let's keep this one moving, folks. What a madness. So you have to imagine, folks, who knows what has actually been here in the land. I'm back along as far as this bit, which has got the water tanks. Yeah, it's almost like, though, like what has been in these buildings, eh? If that is a pipe.
Yeah. Do you think that's been like a generator and there's been something...
Maybe to cool it.
To put something being powered.
I'm not sure, because look, there's these holes here as well. On that other hill along the coast, I would say it's definitely been like a mast location or a communications, but with this scene it's harder to say. It is unknown, but then it could have been a generator site, and then over there they were using the thingy, kind of the communications. Because they often wouldn't have their generator site right next to the mast, so it wasn't such an easy target. If they had it all in one place, one bomb could wipe out the whole facility. Anyway, folks, our next part of this video, we need to get out of this madness, and we're going a different route to where we came, like, so far in the video. It's just crazy going places you've never been, and when you see stuff like that, it just raises the question of history, like what was even going on in the lands. Tiny little pieces of land like that was heavily defended, like a small island there on the edge of the cliff. That's one of the coolest things I've found for ages, just hidden away in the lands of Scotland. And then every year there's little landslides and wee avalanches, and sometimes more history can go missing. Check it out, folks, next to the path there's this chunk of concrete. So that could have also been related to some of the installations that was here at one time on the coast. It is amazing to see little World War II trenches, folks. You never know what you're going to see, and it blows my mind when I walk along. I often consider the history and think about the times when those places were in their prime. And it is almost like travelling through time to imagine the wee radio mast or whatever mounted up on that mad little hill there, and then the folk in the trenches defending it from the land. Whoa! Oh my goodness, that pheasant's just flown across. That was crazy. So here we are, folks. Once again, as I walk past it, I just wanted to have another look. This is literally World War II defensive trench system that you just do not see a lot of on the channel, and you can see the way it waves and goes in at the start, and that's to stop grenades and stuff getting thrown down in. And we saw the way it networks around and defended this little pinnacle of land, and that is crazy to see. I just thought as I walked past I would throw the camera back on and take a look at this piece of land. Is crazy, folks. You can see our shadows are quite long with the low winter sun at this time of year, but this coastal path we have never been on before, because the last time we came in on our adventure we went away along that way to document the history. But aye, this part is just like a sheer cliff. The seagulls, they're just flying around going mental. They're probably wondering what we're doing as well. This is crazy, folks. This old dry stone dike just waves its way around the edge of the most incredible landscape. Yeah, some of the bricks within this coastal wall is actually parts of the old World War II installations that were on this coast. Check it out, folks, this massive void here in the land is actually the scar of the lower part of a dam from a mill that we actually documented in the last video. You can go back and check that out, and you can see the man-made kind of waterfall, which is the outlet from the dam. They've redirected the original stream, but there's actually a higher and a lower dam with a mill and water wheel at the top, and then this old chapel as well. We documented that in the last video. But it's so cool as we walk through. Coming from this side, we've just seen so many other little things today on today's video that we never knew even existed. And it just shows each time going a different route through Scotland how there's just like so many things to be found. And it's quite peaceful here in the little waterfall tumbling down the side of Scotland, basically into the North Sea. We're right on the edge of Scotland today for this adventure. Right now, folks, we've got a rescue helicopter away to come over our heads. And check it out, oh, it's turning right. It looked like it actually had a searchlight or whatever of some sort on it. Wow, hear the purr for that engine. That is the search and rescue helicopter, the white and red coloured one. Yeah, I don't know where they're going, if they're heading back in that way. I think that's a lot of the people that do the coastal rescues. But also I think they rescue people even on the mountains and things like that. It is a great job they do. But yeah, I heard the crack of that coming. I thought it was a way to go right over our heads. Shout out if you're on that helicopter and that's your job. So in the last video, I briefly looked at this little historical wonder which is abandoned on the edge of the cliff. But now I've seen the communications area in today's video, which is defended with the trenches. I'm thinking this would have also been a little area maybe related to a similar kind of deal. Little military building just perched on a high peak of land overlooking areas like this for communications to the British Royal Navy out over the sea, but maybe also for intercepting radio signals in these lands as well. And it is so cool just to walk around and see things like there's a bit of metal. Wow, sometimes we've found old dates and stuff scored into stuff like this over the years, and that's why it's so cool just to take a wee minute as we go past. Real history, folks, hidden and forgotten. And there's a serious amount of bricks and stones under there, and I think that would have been the walls. It would have just been a small outfit here on the corner, and this would have been the top of the roof. But it is amazing to think about the communication side of things from the war as well, because we document airfields, bunkers, radar systems, you name it, and to see this, it's kind of the furthest defence on the edge of the coast. So many years have passed. Sadly, like a lot of these buildings are in a real sorry state, like that one. So these videos just kind of do a little bit just to save the history. Like, there's actually a flock of mountain goats down here, but there's one single sheep. One single sheep in the centre of them. And I can actually see the Coast Guard helicopter there is flying really low along the edge between Lunan Bay and the lime kiln at Bodden Point. It's so low, it's actually below the level of the cliff. We're actually probably at a higher altitude right now than what the helicopter is. Sometimes at that bit of coast you can actually get cut off from the tide. Maybe that's what's happened to somebody. The tide can come in and the cliff's just too high, you can't get back around safely. But then also they're maybe just doing routine patrols of the coast, but I'm not even sure if that's a thing that they do. I think it's the sort of people that only come out in a real emergency. So the helicopter's now past Skardiness Lighthouse, which is about probably 10 or 15 mile up that way, and I can now see it flying away out over the North Sea. So it's maybe just doing patrols if it's the Coast Guard or whatever. We're just still heading in the general direction we need to go, weaving left and right on these little coastal paths. So we're coming back along at right at the edge of the coast, folks. There's just like cliffs right next to this path, and we've just spotted the tide is so far in now, we're going to have to do a total hardcore little route along the edge until we get to the sand. It shows the tide has been coming in this whole time on the adventure, and this has turned into a mad one. Try to avoid stuff like that. That's what we're all about on this channel. We get ourselves into predicaments as we explore, and that's often the funnest adventure. Try to get back out or back to the car after a crazy we explore. see, with that little communications area defended from the trenches, that sort of thing is just about forgotten about. It's pieces of history that literally is getting forgotten about because nobody's speaking about them, and it's little bits on the land. The scars of the trenches or the metal poles where the barbed wire would have been is some of the final things to tell the story of the history. And with this channel, it's special to come and document them and remember these little things that was done during the war, because it was just like a tiny defended piece of land, maybe even just like a single little mast or whatever, and it is almost gone and forgotten. And then to see the other wee cement building, it gives you an idea there was a few things going on the whole way along Lunan Bay. It's defended with strategic little pillbox bunkers. This is absolutely incredible. We're at the top end of Lunan Bay and these waves are crashing in. We're going to have to just stick to the edge until we get to the sand. This is the most intense part of this adventure so far, folks. And the noise, see when the waves come ripping in, it's such a crazy noise. Look at this one. Whoa! This is so cool. I just love covering the landscapes like this, folks. Not only the abandoned history, but the crazy places that it's hidden within. And look, this is old like World War II anti-invasion bollards and stuff. And yeah, because the tide's in, you can probably see the difference since the last video when we walked along the beach. The landscape has now completely changed. Wow, it's the noise when the water's crashing and coming towards you. It makes for such a mad adventure, such a crazy atmosphere. I'm just going to keep the camera rolling for this point, folks, because this is the most intense part here of this whole manoeuvre. The water's coming right to the edge of these pebbles here at the highest waves. And this here is the wild North Sea, leading out miles. Yeah, I think this is a safe height here, although it looks like the water has been hitting these stones. Sharp edges, folks. It says do not climb, but I'm telling... Whoa, I nearly slipped! Well, I did slip, but I managed to hold on. Stay safe here, lads. Wow, this is intense, folks. Like I say, we get ourselves into these predicaments. The water's like right there. I'm going to just keep it rolling once again. This is a long period in the video, stepping from stone to stone. We're nearly there. The water's right below us. This is an intense section of the adventure, folks. The waves are coming in so strong. Shout out if this is your property along the side. There's a lot of people with caravans. Obviously we're only walking along this edge because it's the safest area of navigation right now. But we're nearly there. Nearly at the beach. Yeah, grip is a big thing. I slipped back there and that shows the importance of grip underfoot. I was lucky I had a position where I could rescue the situation by grabbing the rock, but situations like that you can end up down within the water. And look, here's remains of Whoa! I nearly fell again, folks. This is crazy. Look, part of a historical wonder. Potentially bits of a pillbox that's been laid here to prevent the shore from eroding. That's what it is, look. That's the old bits of a pillbox that's been shifted here and built up. Probably the one that used to be further along the beach. That was an intense section of our adventure. We've walked so far today, folks. We're gassed out. Stuff like that's even harder when you're trying to stay nimble on your feet. After walking miles, you get sore. But that's what we're all about on this channel. To see the coolest things, you often have to go the maddest of places. We should have a little bit more of a chilled walk. Now we're on to this incredible Lunan Bay. It is like walking about in a Scottish postcard. Look at this, we've come a little bit further, folks, and look, there's all these little baby birds here, little white ones. And look, they're not wanting to go in the water. Wow, I don't actually have the windsock on the camera at this particular moment, so I do apologise in the audio if there's wind. Look at all the wee birds. Look, they run away. See, when the wave comes, watch them, they totally run away. I don't know how well it's coming out on the camera. Let's get a bit closer and have a look. But we'll give them respect. Look, they're running away through the water. Right in line with my shadow, folks. Look, these wee birds. They're quite funny little beasts. Look at them. Wow, this is cool, folks. We always have nature as well as the history on this channel. Those little birds are just a wee pack kicking about, but it's so funny the way they run along the edge, and then when the water comes they run away from it. That's what we were doing further along the beach as well. Yeah, a lot of them hop on one leg as well, folks. If you know what type of bird that is, get in the comments. They're like a tiny little white bird, cool as anything. So since we entered this beach, folks, we've literally walked miles from that outcrop of rock that leads away out there. We've been beyond that and more, exploring history in this wild land. And now we've almost made it back round to Red Castle, to the end of the beach. I'm actually parked again at the far end of here. So we're at the right end of the beach now, after such a long walk. Me and Highlander are both in pain, because we've probably walked like 10 or 12 miles, maybe more. And it has just been incredible scenes. So yet to come on this adventure, we've still got one of the steepest climbs, and it's absolutely painful for me and Highlander here. We were just laughing because I was saying the most extreme steep hill is still to come, all the way up to the castle and beyond. But this is just like walking about in a Scottish postcard, and around the edge of this there has been World War II defences with the concrete anti-invasion bollards. And I can see swans and stuff living on the water. We're once again in this paradise land, and that's actually an ancient castle on the hill there. I'm going to do a future video on it, documenting its history. And over at the other side of this here, this is the Lunan Water, this waterway coming in, and that's the more popular side of the beach at the far side. This side here is defended from an old World War II pillbox that we did look in. We looked in the opening of that in the last adventure. Here we are, folks. This is the steepest hill climb here. The lands of Scotland are just incredible, with little paths like this weaving its way through. Yes, folks, I've made it to the top of the hill. What a crazy adventure it's been. Look at the state of us. Me and Highlander can hardly move after today's adventures. We've literally walked further than the eye could see on the land, right around that piece of coast and beyond. Miles, and documented all the history along the way. It's been so cool. But I'm going to end this one here, folks. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye from me, goodbye from Highlander 87, and we'll catch you very soon for the next one, wherever we end up going.